Hey! Welcome back, everyone. White Lotus, episode 3 recap. This episode I had a theme, for sure. It certainly had a theme. And that theme was sex. It seemed like every storyline had a little something to do with sex. And it really seems like it's splitting up all the storylines of the show between like the pods of guests that are there. You know what I mean? So we have the honeymoon storyline with Rachel and Shane. We have the family storyline with, the whole family. And we have the Tanya storyline. And it seems like most episodes, it kind of splits that up into the A storyline, the B storyline, and the C storyline. First off, the episode was awesome. Best episode of the series so far. I don't want to spoil anything for my rating later on in the recap, but best episode of the season so far, for sure. Season, all the same. It's a miniseries. And I don't know, it didn't really feel like this episode there was as much of an A plot as there was last episode. But this episode, I guess we'll talk about Rachel and Shane first and kind of what they're up to. And the episode basically starts with an unfulfilling sexual encounter for Rachel and Shane. It seems like Rachel has not left the encounter feeling satisfied while Shane has. And they kind of have a discussion about, is sex all that marriage means to you? Rachel asks Shane that, and Shane's like, well, he gives like a snarky like, well, what else is there? And then he sees that Rachel's kind of like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? And Shane's like, no, of course not. But, like, come on. I just want to get it out there that Shane is more dislikable than almost any, like, actual diabolical villain in any TV show. He's so spoiled and privileged and just kind of like a piece of shit. And Rachel needs to GTFO. She needs to jet. But the main, it seems like really where their storyline goes in the episode is Shane being like, I want to do something romantic for Rachel to prove that I am not in it only for the sex. And we'll get to that in a second. Moving on to the family storyline. Seems like there were kind of 3 storylines within the family storyline. I felt like the major storyline being Mark, the father, coming to terms with the news about his father and how his father actually died and kind of his father's lifestyle, which was that his father had a second life in which he had sex with men. That's what it sounds like. And his father died of AIDS. Now, Mark is taking that hard, obviously, downing a lot of drinks, and he kind of turns it into, I need to be very open and out there with my family, especially with my son. And it leads to disaster. I'll say it, disaster on the social scale. The second storyline kind of being the mom. Nicole has a Zoom call with her company and China. Now, this storyline was outrageously... I talked last week about how Nicole is such an accurate portrayal of a mom, especially a white mom. Sorry, mother, if you see this, but the Zoom thing was so unbelievably accurate, having to make sure that the background was perfect. Perfect. The son, Quinn, he kind of lost his electronics, but that's kind of like a baseline, like low plot. And then there's also the storyline of Olivia and Paula being weird towards each other, and like Paula is sneaking away to have sex with this hotel worker, but Olivia is treating it as like some kind of intense betrayal. It almost, like, I don't think this is the case, right? That they're not together. I don't think so. I think they're just friends, right? They haven't done anything that would give the indication that they're girlfriends. So this isn't cheating or anything. It's just like weird that Olivia is taking this so hard. And then we get to the last storyline, and kind of the last storyline, but it's Tanya and Belinda. Now it begins with Belinda getting a call from her son, and her son telling her, you have to do whatever Tanya wants so that Tanya will fund your next business endeavor. And Belinda's like, you're right. So Tanya obviously has this semi-inappropriate, so far platonic relationship with Belinda, in that she's really asking the world of Belinda just because Belinda gave her a good massage, and Belinda is going along with all of it because she knows that Tanya wants to fund her next business venture. And that means going on a boat ride with Tanya to scatter her mother's ashes in the ocean. And finally, the the last storyline that kind of weaves through all of them is Armand is losing his mind. He is kind of sinking into insanity. He has a conversation with Shane, obviously, is a conversation with Mark, and he books Tanya's boat trip. So Armand is the one that's kind of weaving through all of the storylines and kind of creates all the chaos in the episode. It's really leading us to believe that Armand is going to be the one to die, I think, personally. But let's get back to my favorite parts of the episode, I would say, and the comments that I had. First off, I just want to emphasize again that Shane is the worst. Shane is awful. Shane's a piece of garbage. And seeing Armand, at least at the beginning of the episode, after he books Tanya's boat ride and Tanya says, "Oh, I'm so emotional, I'm gonna be drinking and drunk and all that," he tells Shane, "We have this very romantic boat ride for you and your wife." And Shane's like, "That sounds good. That sounds good." And Shane's like, "All of this complaining that I've been doing has paid off because I get this awesome free boat ride." And obviously it comes back to bite Shane. I think that's what I'm going to spend most of the episode talking about, is the masterpiece that is the boat scene. And the cringe comedy combined with the utter satisfaction of seeing Shane in so much discomfort and kind of adoration building for Rachel. It's weird that in this cast of just obscenely out there characters who don't really seem to have any social skills and have always grown up with money, it seems like I've always had money. Rachel is the one who started from a place of not much wealth and seems to be the most well-adjusted one. Rachel kind of rolls with the punches, is very kind to Tanya as Tanya's going through her meltdown on the boat. Yeah, I think Jennifer Coolidge is playing the role of Tanya just unbelievably well. Unbelievably well. It's really amazing how well Jennifer Coolidge is doing. All the performances in this show are really, really good. But that whole boat scene, utter masterpiece. Masterpiece. I was just my bones were racked with joy the whole time. One of the best scenes of television I've ever seen. I'll say that. And the whole episode really had this forward momentum of just things crumbling. The characters are losing it a little bit. I think it's going day by day in Hawaii, so it's their third day in Hawaii. At least the third day of the series, so I guess their second full day in Hawaii. But also, okay, let's talk about Shane. Let's go back to Shane. I mean, I guess we're still on Shane, but Shane just openly flirting with the young college girls was obscene. Why did you do that? And thinking, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Rachel like kind of being like, oh, it's okay. After being a little bit mad. Just Rachel needs to leave, and I'm sure she does by the end of the series, but it just has to happen. It just has to happen, and it will. I bet it will. And then it's kind of two more things in the episode. First, I want to acknowledge Quinn's electronics getting washed away. A great start to the episode, a great way to kick it off. And so Armand has been built for us as this kind of sympathetic hotel manager who is having a tough time at his job because all these people are really mean. And that is true, all these people are awful. But then Armand kind of takes this dark turn and gets really creepy with one of the hotel workers at the end. I think his name was Dylan. Really creepy and really off-putting scene. Disliked that scene. And the whole episode kind of ended on a dark note with that, which was bad and upsetting and dark. Not saying that it was bad that it was in the show. It was just like kind of a really quick switch to like a really dark moment, which I think is effective. First off, Armand asking Mark if he wants to find out what having gay sex feels like was really funny. Sliding that one in there was really, I feel like I'm all over the place, but I just have a lot to talk about in this episode. And then at the end of the episode, after the Armand thing, dark, we switched to like Quinn masturbating or something. Mark is kind of losing it with the Belinda puts Tanya to sleep. Then Olivia hears Paula leave, follows her, and watches her start to have sex with this hotel worker guy for a long time. She watches for a while. I just don't know what's going on. and maybe this will be answered. I was hoping it would be answered this episode, but hopefully this will be answered soon as to why Olivia is so pissed off that Paula is having sex with this hotel worker. But overall, this episode was one of the best episodes of TV I've seen in a while. I'd say a 4.5 out of 5. It wasn't quite a 5, but it was close. So 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, there's not much more I can say. I'm excited to see what happens next week. I feel I'm so scatterbrained, maybe because I took a whiff of muriatic acid before I did this, lowering the pH in my pool. But I hope that it was coherent, and we'll see you next week. White Lotus, episode 4. Can't wait. Can't wait. Bye.